Today we're looking at Proverbs 11. Like I said, now that we've moved from the first 9 chapters, 10 through 30, for the next 20 chapters, starting at 10, is going to be just a bunch of things that are one verse ideas, and it's usually a juxtaposition. You'll see this into 11. It'll talk about something false, something true, something wise, something foolish, something wicked, something righteous. And again, you're going to hear that the proverb person. Let's try this again. Today we're looking at Proverbs 11. And it's interesting because, like I had said, Proverbs 1 through 9 is an introduction to warm you up to the idea of why you need wisdom, why you need understanding, why you need knowledge. And again, these things are not emotives. Strong knowledge, strong understanding can lead to strong emotions, but emotions do not lead to knowledge, but knowledge can lead to emotions. And we see in 10 through 30, you're going to get the core of the Proverbs of wisdom. And each one of these, again, they're snippets. They're like one verse. And usually they're, again, made like 119 for children, for young people, for us to read. Pretty simple words. This is for wise, this is foolish, this is for the upright, this is for the wicked, this is forward, this is just. And you're going to see that the writer of the Proverbs kind of uses the same kind of words, but he doesn't want to bore you with righteous. Every proverb has righteous and every proverb has wicked. He'll throw in other words like forward, unjust, just, all these different things. So you'll see we do see the word righteousness used a lot and right used a lot in here when you're looking through it. But he's also wise enough to keep us interested. He kind of changes it out. But this is like, again, 31 little sermons. They're also, if you think about it, they're very much like 31 weights. You know, we were talking about in the Psalms how that you need to see the Psalms as also weights. That's why we did one a day. You know, even though some of them were small, you could do 2 or 3 if you're just trying to get done with Psalms. But if you went to the gym and, you know, I'm going to do 16 reps today because I can't make it tomorrow, it's not going to work. If you're not going to make it tomorrow, come back the next day and do 8 reps or whatever. Doing 16 reps, you know, today doesn't, you know, putting 2 days together on your body, putting 2 days together on your mind doesn't do the same. So you've got 31 reps to do today, and each one is da-da-da, 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 da-da-da. You're really moving that mental muscle, that wisdom muscle. So you're doing 31 reps. And unlike your body, it doesn't get tired. You can do 31 reps easy, and take it slow. We're not in a foot race to the cross. I've said this several times. We're not out to get things, you know, get to a finish line. This is not about the finish line. It's about a journey to where you're enjoying where you're going along the way. You know, you're taking little sidebars. You're going up this road, you know. You're seeing what's available, and then you're moving on with your spiritual backpack. That's what this thing is supposed to be. A false balance is an abomination to the Lord, but a just weight is his delight. I've mentioned economics several times, that God is for good quality economics. When pride cometh, there cometh shame, but with the lowly is wisdom. Once again, a different snippet with a different idea. I'm just going to hit a few, and I'm not going to spend a lot of time in the next 20 days on Proverbs, because you can go in and read them for yourselves. All 31 have strength of some kind, but I only give you a snippet, an idea of how to handle them all. Riches profit not in the day of wrath, but righteousness delivers from death. The idea that if you have riches and God is having wrath coming along, it's not going to help you. But being in righteousness delivers from death. And this is the idea of again, a king that comes into a kingdom. The righteous will be delivered, but those that aren't, no matter how much money they have. He keeps saying, the wicked man dieth, his expectation shall perish. The hope of the unjust man perish. The righteous delivered out of trouble, but the wicked man cometh in his stead. Again, righteous, wicked, we see these same words brought up. When it goeth well for the righteous, the city rejoiceth. But when the wicked perish, there is shouting. Again, that one's crazy. You know, when the wicked are gone, there is shouting. People in this day and age think that if we embrace wickedness, they'll be shouting. When it's just the opposite. When the wickedness is gone, they're shouting. He that is devoid of wisdom despises his neighbor, but the man of understanding holdeth his peace. Again, very strong. I could go through, like I said, I love this one. He that is surety for a stranger shall smart for it, but he that hateth suretyship is sure. Again, the idea of surety is where you borrow money and you clasp hands, or you get a credit card, and you're saying, I'm going to do this, and then I'll pay you back. That's an surety. If you want to forego debt, unreasonable debt, that would be a better thing to do. And he goes on with this, the righteous tend to life, so he that pursueth evil pursueth it to his own death. I know I'm going fast on some of these, but these are really good. The righteous tendeth to life, like you're tending a field. He that pursueth evil pursueth it to his own death. You're pursuing that to your own death. You're going to be dying. You're choosing your own death. Those that are froward in heart are an abomination to the Lord, but such as the upright in their way are his delight. Again, we're seeing a juxtaposition of ideas. He that withholdeth corn, the people shall curse him, but blessing shall be upon the head of him that selleth. Go through these one at a time. Do your weights today. Take your time doing your weights. Don't run through them. You're not on a foot race. You're not on a clock. Read all 31 carefully. What would it take you? 5, 6 minutes, 8 at the most, less than 10. Really slowly. Do your weights. I've started working out in the mornings. And it takes about 10, 15 minutes to actually work out, to basically work on your core. You don't have to spend an hour at the gym or an hour on a treadmill. Just start working on the muscles. Work on these muscles. So read these carefully. I'm going to hit high points for the next 19 days. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on each one, but let's see what's there, learn what's there, and learn how to read Proverbs for what it has to show us. Going back to 2 Kings, and I yesterday spent a whole day on these charts that I hope you took a picture of. Here's again, if you didn't see it, here's the Northern Kingdom, all the kings, and you see how there was a lot of murder going on, a lot of killing, a lot of, I was showing my son this, and it's just like the kingship, and none of these were sons of Solomon. They were not kin to David. Jeroboam was the son of a servant of Solomon. But showing you the line, the Davidic line, here's where they are. And again, like I said yesterday, you'll see the asterisks of the good kings. And getting these things in our head so that we can keep the king of Judah, the king of Israel, the king of Israel, the king of Judah, Jerusalem and Israel and Samaria. Well, getting all of that. And sometimes the frustration is it's the same name. So wait a minute, I would get confused. We're talking about Joash, and I'm talking about something Joash did in the southern kingdom. But wait, this is the Joash of the northern kingdom. And I'm talking mention of Jotham. Well, wait a minute. This is the Jotham of the southern, This chart is going to help me, and I think it will help you. Going back over 11, 12, and 13, I felt like I went a little fast over those. Athaliah sees that Ahaziah has been murdered by Jehu. Again, using our charts to help us keep clear on who's doing what. So he gets murdered. He gets killed by her. When I say murdered, it's God was wiping out the house of Ahab. So he does that. She's been killed. And Josiah begins to reign. And in there. And in the 7th year of Josiah, he reigned. And he reigned 40 years in Jerusalem. So he was the one after Jehu. And remember, we talked about how that God had promised to the northern kingdom that there would be 4 kings. So we see that he starts repairing in the southern kingdom. In the southern kingdom here, we have Joash right here. And so we have him moving in the southern kingdom, and he starts repairing the temple. And so this happens, and then we have Joash, the son of Ahaziah the king. He has a son named Jehoahaz, who comes into play. And so we have that going on. And we have these different kings going on and what they did. We have the death of Elijah, and he is with the northern kingdom. And he is the prophet to the northern kingdom. I was telling my son today that when you see prophets, it's not always a good thing. prophets usually come right before wrath. If you'll notice how God talks about the two witnesses in Revelation, when these real prophets show up, it's not a time of rejoicing. It's a time of God's giving you one more chance for repentance through showing his goodness, showing his power, showing his might. And you prove yourself by going, I don't care what you do. I don't care how you provide. I don't care how you protect. I want my sin. But Elijah is fallen, and Joash, the king of Israel, goes and weeps, oh, my father, the chariots of Israel. And he helps him, shows him how he can get deliverance from Syria, but he doesn't. And so we have these kings moving on. So on the chart here, we're going to Joash, son of Jehu, on the chart. And how we're dealing with, again, I think we're at Jotham has been murdered. Jotham is a good king. You have Ahaz coming up. In 14, Joash, the son of Jehoahaz. So we're looking at, again, the northern kingdom. He talks about some of the things that he did. He did right in the eyes of the Lord, howbeit the high places weren't taken out. It came to pass, as soon as the kingdom was confirmed in his hand, he slew the servants that slayed the king and the children of the murders. He's taking care of those who want to take vengeance on themselves, who would want to be avengers, and they are judged justly. Remember Joab. Remember Shimei. You know, God judges justly. You know, these are people that needed to be judged. Again, looking at this long term, when we see kings and snapshots, it looks bad. Well, go back to any of our history, and you're going to see snapshots look bad. We get more of a story from context. And so he tries to make Amaziah, he sins to Joash, and Amaziah is in the southern kingdom. He goes up to talk to Jehoash, the king, and they're wanting to pick a fight. And so they start fighting, but the problem is Judah did not go to God to see if he should do this, and he gets his comeuppance. Israel wins. Israel comes down and takes gold and silver from the house of the Lord. He doesn't take the stuff of God. He doesn't take the stuff the priests used. But the gold and silver that are in the house that have been given as tribute, have been given as gifts, have been given as honor. That's the stuff that gets taken. Interestingly enough, this is the beginning of the growth of the Assyrian Empire. Think about it for a second. The Assyrians are on their way to take the northern kingdom. And they're growing. Now, what's going to happen here, and you're going to see this in 14 and 15, is that here we have the southern kingdom picks a fight with the northern kingdom without conferring with the Lord. The northern kingdom wins, comes down and takes tribute, takes from them, instead of destroying them, takes from them. Later on, the Assyrians will go to the northern kingdom a couple of times before they take them, and basically they're going to get the same thing plus more. Think about that. The riches that go from the southern kingdom go to the northern kingdom. Then when Assyria comes down, they're going to take those riches plus more and grow their kingdom, and it'll grow so strong that later on it'll come and envelop the northern kingdom. It's like they're paying the ones who are going to take them over. This is why nations need to be strong. Weak nations always get consumed by stronger nations. When Israel was a strong nation, nobody messed with it. And so it was there. And nobody messed with it. In fact, they grew from it. They enjoyed the benefit of a strong nation. But when it became weak, it became prey. And here we have, again, we're looking at this to where the king of the north, the king of the south goes and says, come, let us look one another face to face. This is Amaziah sends to Joash, the king of the northern kingdom. And that's calling you to war. And so he goes, you know, you're being a thistle. You don't know what you're getting into here. The thistle said to the cedar. I mean, a thistle talking to a cedar. I always read this, wonder what that means. Well, now when I understand figurativism, I can see now, oh, this little bitty thistle of a plant is talking to a cedar tree. Oh, you don't want any of this. It's basically what he's saying. He's saying, I'm the cedar, you're the thistle. You don't want any of this heat, because I'll come down on you. You've smitten Edom, and your heart has lifted you up. You took on a little guy, you beat him, and now you think you can take on a cedar? That's not going to happen. But Amaziah would not hear, and King Jehoash, king of Israel, went up, and he and Amaziah, king of Judah, looked one another face to face in Beth-Shemesh, and Judah was put to the worse. So here, and later on, they go into the gate, and they take all the silver and gold out of the house of the Lord, and they take it back. And it talks about Jehoash sleeping with his fathers. And Amaziah, the son of Joash the king, lived until the death of Joash, son of Jehoahaz. So we see this, and this is interesting that this is here. Because again, like I said, it's a precursor to the growth. It's almost like evil nations also, or weak nations, I should say, also grow their enemies. They feed their enemies till their enemies are so strong they come and envelop them. This is something we need to learn. And the people made Azariah king, and he built up some things, and he reigned 41 years, but he did what was evil in the sight of the Lord. So I have him, here without an asterisk. And he does evil in the sight of the Lord. And it talks about what he did. And it talks about Jeroboam, also from the northern kingdom. I'm trying to look down on my charts here, trying to keep these guys straight. He is the great-grandson of Jehu. So we see that God is keeping his promise. Again, the kings in the northern kingdom are not good, but God didn't promise them good kings. He promised them kings. And if these kings will be good from your line, just like he warned Solomon. Solomon didn't get a pass with God. He said, if you will follow me, if you will follow my standards, if you will follow my statutes, if you will give yourself to me with a whole heart, here's what's going to happen. If you don't, here's what's going to happen. That same option is given to every king until God has to wipe out a house, bring in another administration, wipe it out, bring in another. He never wipes out the administrations of the southern kingdom. That even doesn't get wiped out with the Babylonians. We come back as a thistle, we come back as a remnant, and then they have their government. Then Christ is going to come along, and then Christ is going to come back and be that king, be that last final king of David, the promise of David. But the northern, it's just all over the place. If you could kill, you could get power. And that's how the northern kingdom was, and it's going its way. In 15, we talk about these kings. We have Azariah does right in the sight of the Lord, but it says the Lord smote him so that he was a leper. I don't know. I'd have to go maybe do a little more research into Josephus. Many times the Bible doesn't give us exactly all of what's going on here. It could have been just a genetic thing, It could have been just a random things that happen, Christians get diabetes. Christians get AIDS, not by having sex. It's just things that happen through blood transfusion. Christians can get all kinds of diseases. They can get all kinds of dysfunctions. God does not protect us completely from the world. I have hypothyroidism. It's something I have to deal with within my metabolics, to control that dysfunction. Most Christians have something they're dealing with that has to do with either weight or systemic problems. We have these, and again, it could also be tied to the genome of years of sinners in our lives. I don't know. I have to look into that if you want to go look at the history of that. But he's saying the Lord smote him so that he became a leper until the day of his death. And it might have been something he did personally, but it had nothing to do with his governance. The point is also, God earlier said that I create the blind. And this is a hard thing for Christians to hear, but if the genome wants to create something, God takes credit for what the genome does, even if it happens randomly. If we don't care, the mechanism of God inside of us will create dysfunction, but he will take credit for that because it's his mechanism. If I have, a machine that creates good bread, okay, great, no problem. But if you mess up the dough, the machine will still make the bread. It's just going to be bad bread. The mechanism will make the bread based on the ingredients you put in it. Or you mess with the ingredients, you put something in there that shouldn't be, and all of a sudden you have sour bread or bad bread, or it tastes awful. You can't blame the machine. God says it's my machine. This whole genomic thing, this whole building of babies things is my machine. But yet, if you're going to pollute the genome with hypersexuality, that's going to go down for generations. Bad diet, that's going to go for generations. poor health, drinking, all these other things, carcinogens that we do from smoking and other things, the pesticides, and you get the idea. Well, but it's still the mechanism of God. That makes more sense when you're looking again using grid work to make decisions and not me trying to put it together in my head. Do I see grid work of God doing that? Yes. He smites the king, and then we go on to other kings, and we go with Zechariah, his son. He's coming into play, and this is the last king. And we're going to see when we finish 15, we're going to see that he kind of finishes off. In 15, we finish off pretty much the northern kingdom. Again, I'm going to hold up this chart so you can look at it. There we are near the bottom. This, being out here doesn't help any. We're getting near the bottom. Zechariah, the fourth king of Jehu, and he even mentions that here. Thus was the word of God which he spoke unto Jehu, saying, Thy sons shall sit on the throne of Israel unto the fourth generation, and it came to pass. But Shalom came and killed this king, Zechariah, so he's killed by him. And then he turned around and is killed by another guy called Menahem, and Menahem kills him. So we got Menahem goes, and he has a son named Pekahana, and Pekahana is there, but then he is killed by Pekah, and Pekah is killed by Hosea. And so we have this going down, and this is all happening. It's in the 20th years of Jotham, the son of Uriah. And I'm going to say that also, this is happening way up here. Azariah, I put this, it should go here. So we still have these kings to go in Israel. But this is where the northern kingdom starts to stop. This is where the northern kingdom gets taken on. This is around 700 BC. This is going to go down to like 587 BC. So half the kings have yet to go in the northern kingdom. And unfortunately, we're going to see them start getting bad in this area. But understanding that about the kings, understanding that about the Bible, understanding, so when we get to 16 and we start looking at some of these others, we're going to be looking now mostly at the southern kingdom and different things. We're going to reference some of these things. He's going to go back and say in the time of the reign of Pekah, for example, Ahaz did this. So we're going to go back a little bit in time. But basically, we're going to see the southern kingdom is done at 17 in the middle. Between 17 and 20, we see the end of the northern kingdom. I might have said southern a minute ago. The end of the northern kingdom is coming. The middle of 17, from 17 to 17 and a half, basically, to 25 is all about the northern kingdom. So it's interesting to see how all these kings work together. It'll be a little easier, for that we're going to run down just one king, and he'll try to put some of this stuff happen, like I said, in this time frame. But we're going to see that God is judging the northern kingdom. He's even using them to finance the people. And we see the same thing happening with Babylon. Babylon gets financed a couple of times, and then it comes after the southern kingdom. God is judging for sin. He's judging rightly for sin, and we need to trust God in what he's doing here. He will judge for sin, but thank God, he keeps a remnant so that he might keep his promise to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and keep his promise to David. Keep his promise to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob that they would get the land. Keep the promise to David that that the son of David would be the king. And Christ is going to usher all that back in. So don't worry, just because things go dark and off the rails in Kings, there's a king coming that's going to make all of this right. Thank you.